In Module 3, we will be discussing how to work with tables and columns and integrating them with your web page, along with creating web forms. HTML tables are arranged up and down by rows and left and right by columns, which are filled by data cells. A cell may be specifying to occupy one or more HTML table rows or columns. Why is this important? Tables without structural markup to differentiate and properly link between header and data cells create accessibility barriers. Relying on visual cues alone is not sufficient to create an accessible table. With structural markup, headers and data cells can be programmatically determined by software, which means that people using screen readers can have the row and column headers read aloud as they navigate through the table. Screen readers speak one cell at a time and reference the associated header cells, so the reader doesn't lose context. Some people use alternative ways to render the data, for example by using custom style sheets to display header cells more prominently. Techniques like this enable them to change text size and colors and display the information as lists rather than grids. In order to allow alternative renderings, table code needs to be properly structured. Web forms are one of the best and most effective ways to communicate with your users. But what's the best way to set them up? Is there a way you can make your forms more visually attractive and easy to use? Is there a way to ensure that more users fill them out correctly? HTML forms let you create a variety of user interface controls to collect input on a web page. Each of the controls typically has a name and a value, where the name is specified in the HTML and the value comes either from user input or from a default value in the HTML. The entire form is associated with a URL of a program that will process the data, and when the user submits the form, usually by pressing a button, the names and values of the controls are sent to the designated URL as a string of the form. Web forms are a simple way that a person viewing your web page can send you data. This is done by the user filling in various parts or input lines within the form designated by you. Forms are supported by almost every browser and make it possible to create documents that collect and process users' input and formulate personalized replies. Once a user fills out a form, it is submitted to a server or emailed to a specific address. If sent to a server, that server passes the information to a supporting program or application that processes the data. The client side of the form handles the look and feel of the form, aligned labels, fonts, colors, etc. You can also add a bit of helpful validation in this part of the form. The server-side processing script does all the back-end core functionality, like sending emails, saving the submissions to a database, and so on. The client side of the form runs in your visitor's browser. It can't do the heavier stuff like emailing or saving to database. So, to run a complete form, you need a web server where you can run your server-side processing script. When a form is filled in by a visitor to your site and sent, the results of the form need to be processed in some way. One of the most common ways to process form results is with a CGI, Common Gateway Interface script. This is a small program that the information entered into the form is sent to as soon as the form is submitted. The purpose of this script is to accept the results of a form, organize the results, and send the results to an appropriate location, such as a text file, database, or email address. In these exercises, we won't go into creating CGI scripts, since that is quite different from HTML and requires some programming knowledge. There are many free CGI scripts on the internet that you can download and use for your own forms. Many ISPs, Internet Service Providers, also provide scripts for the use of their users, so you can often get by without having to learn how to create your own scripts.